The roulette wheel, unfortunately, isn't working today, but thankfully I have a backup copy of the list of top 5 topics, and I've been crossing them off, sometimes more diligently than others, so I know which ones I've done and which ones I haven't, essentially, which is good. So I've just picked one off the list, and it's top 5 albums. I don't think I've done this one. I've done top 5 musical artists / bands / groups / individuals, etc. But I don't think I've done albums, so we're going to do albums. Now I've got to think of 5 albums. I'm going to try not to do... the thing is, I could do multiple albums from the same artist, and I don't think that's very fair. I know what my top 1 is. So I know what number 1 is. 2. So I think I know what 2 will be. 3. Yeah, I've got 3. Now I just need 4 and 5. Well, let's... Good grief, albums, eh? I do like a good... I like to listen to a whole album. I did quite like it when I just had the CD player in my car and I could just listen to a whole album, but then I had to decide on what album to listen to. Because the thing about an album is that you get... It's a set of music that the artist has thought about the order in which it should go and thought about how it tells a story. Particularly with prog rock albums. So it's nice to get experience the music as the artist intended sometimes. But anyway, number 5. Gosh, why is my mind going completely blank on albums? Screw it. We're gonna go Hergest Ridge by Mike Oldfield. I remember I was at Oxfam. I used to volunteer at Oxfam for many years. I think about 5 years I did, when all was said and done. Got a bronze badge for my effort, which was rather good. Maybe I'll go back one day and get the other badges, should they still exist. Maybe they're not a thing anymore. Anyway, I remember one day we got donated a bunch of records, and amongst them was Hergest Ridge by Mike Oldfield. Now, I was familiar. I think I'd just discovered Omadhawn by Mike Oldfield, and really enjoyed that, and that was a really good album. And Hergest Ridge came into the shop on record, and the manager at the time said, you know, bit of an acquired taste. So I picked it up and I listened to it, and I was like, ugh, what is that? And I've listened to it since various times, and you know, the more I listen to it, the more I appreciate it. It's just a really nice... it's one of those albums that you can just sink into. You know, the thing with Mike Oldfield's early work is that the whole album is a single track, effectively a single track. The only reason that it's split up at all is because, well, you had to flip the record over to hear the second half of it, but effectively it is one track just split over 2 sides of a record. So you've got 40 minutes of music, and it's a good 40 minutes. It is an acquired taste, I will admit that, and it's not for everybody, but I like it a lot. I'd hesitate to put it amongst Oldfield's best works. I think Return to Omadhawn is fantastic, but it's got a special place for me as Hergest Ridge. So that's my number 5. Number 4, we're going to the Untitled 4th album by Led Zeppelin. Once again, my mum may be surprised to hear that Led Zeppelin could possibly be any lower than top spot, but whatever. It's a truly, truly great album. One of the greatest, like, proper hard rock albums. It's just a plain old rock album, you know, and it's one of the greatest ever produced. Possibly the greatest, if you're just going for pure rock music. You know, there's the likes of Deep Purple's Machine Head, which is up there, and you know, there's a few others for people who like heavier stuff, but for my money, the Untitled 4th album is the place to be. If you don't know a darn thing about rock music, that's the place to start as well, I would say, because it's a nice selection of different sounds while still retaining the sort of hard rocking style of Led Zeppelin. This is kind of where they cemented their style, I feel. And there's not a bad track on the whole album. It's quite unusual that you come across such a thing, particularly in rock. I know that a lot of the bigger artists, they kind of just sometimes they put songs on the album and they needed to fill space. It's a known thing. They call them the throwaway tracks. And you know, Zeppelin 4, that's what it's known as. All the tracks are gold. It's fantastic. I mean, Rock and Roll, you could argue, is a bit of a, it's a bit of a throwaway. It's a bit of a whatever track. But love this thing. If you haven't heard it before, it's probably amazing. I remember growing up with that album, and it was the best thing since sliced butter. I loved it, and I still love it now. Number 4, Led Zeppelin 4. Number 3, then, we're going to go with... You know, it's difficult to decide between 2 and 3, but I'm just going to go for it. Number 3 is going to be Grace Under Pressure by Rush. What a sound. It's a sound that's unusual. It's kind of got a... I seem to recall reading that it was kind of supposed to be like a reggae sound. I don't entirely hear it, but it's certainly unique amongst prog and rock in general. It's got a nice... You see, Rush... In the 80s, in the early 80s, they were very, getting very synth-heavy, which isn't, I don't think, is a bad thing, really. By the time of Power Windows and, like, the mid-80s, it was a bit much, I think. Lots of people say that Signals and Moving Pictures are too synth-heavy, even so, and I disagree. I think it sounds amazing. And Grace Under Pressure gets the balance just right, I think. And it's got some... amazing, really quite touching songs that, you know, they were there for me at a certain period of my life when I needed them, and I really do appreciate them. Looking back and just being where I am now, it's still great music. There are 2 tracks on that album that everybody says are like the worst Rush tracks. And I think they're really good. I think the whole album is great. And yeah, again, not every album is going to be 100% for everybody. But for me, Grace Under Pressure is. And I like it a lot. The only reason I don't put it higher is, first of all, because my 1 and 2 are better, I think. I prefer them. 2, because, there are some quite... difficult concepts and difficult lyrics in some of the tracks, and so it is depending on where you are emotionally, it can be a bit of a difficult listen, but give it a go. I'm sure you won't regret it. Number 2 then, English Electric, Big Big Train. I discovered this album not many years ago, but I absolutely love it. It's kind of cheating a little bit because it's a later re-release of English Electric Parts 1 and 2, which were originally separate albums, but then they were... Well, the naming structure suggested to me that it was always meant to be one large body of work, and later on they did sort of remaster the tracks and put them in the new order, which makes sense, which makes more sense, and released it as a double album. Excellent, absolutely fantastic music. Again, for my money, solid gold, the whole lot. If you're not into prog, then it's not going to be for you. But it's got a real social history vibe to it. And if you know anything about me, you know I do love a bit of social history, the sort of history that you can't read about in books. And English Electric is very much that. The first track describes the sort of summer holiday like the sort of 6 weeks holiday that I used to have as a kid. And I find it absolutely fascinating that they've managed to capture that feeling in a song. And then, you know, it goes into social history with a very English slant, particularly working class. I'm finding that I'm very aware of my working class origins when it comes to my music taste, and English Electric is, it's there. But there's also tracks about, you know, art. There's a brilliant track about, I forget his name now, but there's a guy who was so irritated by his lack of success in the art world that he started doing forgeries and made far more money than he ever did as a legitimate artist. And then his forgeries became famous in themselves, and you can buy them for stupid amounts of money. Yeah, fantastic track that. And I mean, there's various others. Some nice themes going throughout as well. The whole hedgerow thing is really nice. Yeah, beautiful album, absolutely beautiful, worth a listen. But my number one for years, it has been potentially a controversial choice, particularly amongst Tull fans, but it's gonna be Stormwatch. I really, really like Stormwatch. Now, I've kind of it's been hard to decide between Stormwatch and Heavy Horses, and Stormwatch takes it because my favourite track on Heavy Horses is one of the bonus tracks that was released with the box set a few years ago, and I don't think it's especially fair to rate an album highly based on one track that wasn't originally on it. No doubt about it, the album is great, but I think Stormwatch takes it for me simply for that reason. It's got it's a remarkably accessible Tull album, I would have said. Very sort of rocking vibes, you know, a bit of the flute. Got to have a bit of the flute with Tull. And again, it's got quite a good theme. It's all about climate change, which is very interesting and very topical at the moment. And once again, there's some wonderful, beautiful tracks on that album. The opening track's really, really good. Gosh, I'm trying to remember what was on the album now. There's on the remastered box set. There is a track called Orion, the second track on the album, and it's quite a long track. The box set has the original full-length version of that track. Oh boy, it goes on forever, and it is great. There's also a very interesting track on there called Dark Ages, which, if you listen back throughout, as I've collected the box sets and listened to more of the bonus tracks and the sort of unreleased material that they did, this Dark Ages track, you can hear it being sort of developed in all these bonus tracks, which I found it really fascinating. I think it goes all the way back to Aqualung or even earlier. It's like 10 years old by the time they actually get a finished piece of music out of it. It's fantastic. And of course the final piece is brilliant as well. Oh yeah, I do. I like Stormwatch. The reason why, I mean, there's certain Tull songs that I like better than the sort of body of work on Stormwatch, but it's better as a whole for me, and I find it, well, you know, general purpose. I find it the music on it more listenable, whatever mood I'm in. Whereas certain other songs I need to be need to be in the right mood for it. So yeah, that's my top 5. I'll probably think of something that I should have included later on, but hey, that's how these things go. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you all tomorrow. Also, let me know what your favourite albums are, and let me know if you listen to these, what you think of them. Anyway, bye!